plus, no matter.
I bribe my students.
It works.
Okay, so a melomel just means that it's a mead with a different fruit in it, also on top of it. So, because I don't ever teach anybody, I get extremely nervous. So I'm gonna hold this and pretend like when I blank out and forget things, like I'm actually looking and like I need it to look at. Yeah. So mead is, as far as we know, give or take 8,000 years old. It's a rough estimate. We have signs of honey hunters written on or painted on cave walls in Spain, Valencia, and that dates back about 8,000 years. They think the first time that we ever had mead, somebody kind of left some honey out, it rained, sat in the sun, they went back, they're like, it's still good, and drank it, and loved it, right? So that's kind of how they think the whole thing happened. Yeah, honestly, at the time, they don't really let things go. I mean, how many recipes are there? Curdled milk, still good. You can fix this. Well, personally, I've done a lot of studies on the Vikings time. I like it. It's my thing. And honestly, when you ask somebody about me, the first thing they really say are, oh, Vikings, right? They're sitting in their halls with their horns filled up. They're, I don't know, talking about their day's slaughter and then slurred drunkenly in their long haul. Like, I don't know what you envision when you think of Vikings, but that's usually like along the lines. And it's kind of like that a little bit, just kind of replace the mead with ale and maybe a wooden cup because mead was a lot more important to them than just an everyday drink. They had ale, that's what that was for. They had it in a big vat, everybody just kind of dipped in, and that's what they did with that. Mead was actually used for more ceremonial purposes, which is why they had the horns. They didn't use that every day, but they had a lot of them because that was more of a ceremony. What they would do is they'd have like the lady of the house come out, she'd bring the mead and the horns, she'd bring it to the jarl, the man of the house, the king, whoever was highest and was in charge of the hall that they were at. They'd probably do a little blessing over it. They'd drink the first round to Odin, probably the second round to some lesser gods, the third round to the man of the house themselves, and then maybe the fourth round to some forgotten relatives, some dead guys, then maybe the fifth or sixth, I don't know, to mice, like whatever excuses you have past then. But it was a big ceremony. And that's actually where they think the whole drink to your health comes from, because of the health properties that it gives you. Their drink to your health, salute to the king, that kind of thing. And that's why you have a drink, as far as that goes. But one of the most famous, just a little history on the mead before we get to the making part, the most famous history or story that's known is going to be probably the Mead of Poetry, which is Viking. And that comes from the Post Edda, written by Snorri, if I said that right, pretty sure. And it basically goes that the Vanir and the Aesir, they got in a fight like they do, and then they decided to truce as they do, and they all spit and did the whole shaky shaky thing, or maybe in a big vat, I'm not really sure, but of that spittle came Kevsir. And he was known to be the wisest ever, basically. And he went around and kind of just dispersed his wisdom into households. I guess he'd be invited in, and they'd be like, oh no, my goats are dying. And he'd be like, give them something for it. And they're like, oh, thank you. Right, and then he'd go to the next person, and he just kind of did this repeatedly. And he got invited to dwarves' homes. And they were translated into English named Deceiver and Screamer, so I don't really know how wise he was to go overall. That part kind of eluded me, but he did. And they slew him, as dwarves do. And of his blood, they made the poetry of Mead. The Mead of poetry, I'm sure. But what basically it does is when you drink said mead, you gain Kevsir's powers, or ability to spit wisdom, poetry, that kind of thing, scholarlyship. That's a word right now. So, so Odin finds out about this, because he does that, because he's a god. And he's all like, hey, I want that, because wisdom's his thing, amongst like 50 other really random things. And he goes, okay, I'm gonna go get that. And that's kind of like an epic in itself. That's a whole lot of, I'm tricking you, I'm over here, I cheated you out of this, I'm gonna sit on a couch for like 3 years and try to figure out what to do, I'm gonna hide under a rock, disguise myself as a woman. It's really, really long. It is, it's crazy. So just kind of skip that. Odin finds it. But it's kind of like a, hey, I gotta get it real quick. So he goes in and he gulps all 3 vats of it at once, because he's Odin, I only drinks oceans. That's what he does. And he turns into an eagle and flies away real quick to Asgard. Well, because he's being pursued, he kind of vomits it up into some containers real quick. Delicious, right? Vomits it up, and a little bit dribbles out. What dribbled out makes bad and mediocre poets. On Midgard. That's like, honestly, if you go to the bar on Saturday night, somebody's like, I got you a story, I'm going to tell it to you. That's the kind of bad poet that creates. But the mead that was actually put into the jars, the containers, that's where the good stuff comes from. That's where you are technically bestowed by God your scholar and poetry abilities. It's bestowed upon you. It's like when you get that moment of brilliance. It's like the I'm running down the street naked because I just figured out buoyancy in my tub brilliance. Like that kind of. That's what that mead is, which is wonderful. And something I really like about the tale is the whole concept. Like honey is bee vomit and mead is oat vomit, basically. But that's my fun tale as far as Viking goes. Just because that's what I know and that's what you kind of think of, but it's everywhere. 8,000 years worth of culture and religion, and even in other Viking stories. I mean, when you first go to Valhalla, all the noobs, they get freaking mead at the big table. It's wonderful. Literally, it's a great way to go. The Greeks, Zeus, his eagle steals ambrosia and brings it back to the people. I have a few other cultures up. Hindu, in their Vedas, it says that Indra's eagle steals honey from the heavens. A lot of eagle with honey. Don't really know. Celtic heaven, they ran with rivers of mead, because that's the one I want to go to, out of all of them. Really? In Islam, they have the surah in the Holy Quran that's actually called don't quote me on this, the Al-Nahal, which actually means honeybee. So they have an entire section of the Quran basically praising the honeybee and honey and everything that comes from it, because it's that good for you. So it's just kind of over a lot of cultures all through time. I just like Viking the best. So why is mead so important? Why is it continued? They had wine, they had ale, they had ciders and all this other stuff. Why does mead continue? And you basically have to look at 2 things. The first one is its shelf life and that it has none. Like it's just good forever, basically. It can go bad, don't get me wrong, but it's good forever. And there's something magic in this. And I mean, we were driven by magic for a very, very long time. Like he was telling me the other day, the Egyptians, they would worship Baal, a god created specifically because they saw these frogs in the desert that when it would dry out, they'd flatten and basically die. And they'd stay that way for months and months and months. They thought they were little dry dead frogs. And then the spring rains would come and they would inflate basically and hop away. So they were like, oh my God, right? It came back to life. That must be a guy named Baal, and we're going to worship him. Just because of these magical properties. And that's something that they saw in honey, is that it didn't go bad. That's a magic property. There's also its ability to heal, or its healing properties. And that's really what you see the most over time. And that's basically what all the religious texts are about, is the healing of mead and what it does, down to the Egyptians actually used it as embalming fluid, or used it in their mixture for embalming fluid. They found traces of it. There have been Roman field guides from the doctors on the field using it to put on burns and to treat wounds because it's antibacterial.
The honey itself?
Honey itself. Honey itself. Aristotle wrote about how he eats it to be healthy in his diet every day. People have kind of kept this over time. There's even modern studies that show that it's a better cough suppressant than some of the medicines that we drink today. So it's just kind of kept that over time. That was another one of the reasons that honey or mead was so important. Honey being important, mead because it's made from this magical property of honey. So that's kind of why mead was able to stay through all the other alcoholic drinks, everything else that we had for so long. There are 3, I would say, I kind of categorized them 3 different ways to make the mead. There's the old historic way, but that's vague and dangerous. Vague because it's been around for 8,000 years. Pinpoint one. I would be here for years trying to tell you each and every different way that everyone made it. I would like to, do something like specifically Vikings, but that's not what everybody's time period is. That's not what everybody wants to know. And then there's also the danger factor. They would literally just leave it out in the sun, which isn't always great. And then different places in Europe have different yeasts, which would treat the body different from yeasts we have here, which might be dangerous to just do certain things with. Just different natural yeasts, and you never know what you're going to get, so it's just better not to go the historic route for obvious reasons. There's the natural route, which is the one that we're going to go over today, and then there's the modern route. Modern's going to be basically taking the technology of modern brewing. You're going to be adding chemicals to it, to clarify it, to preserve it, nutrients to it. You're going to be racking it, which means basically like halfway through the fermentation, you take it from one, you put it into another to kind of get rid of this sediment here at the bottom to make it more clear for packaging and selling to other people. So that's not really what I want to do either, because that's not historic enough for me. So why I said natural, and that's what I want to do, is we're basically going to be doing what the chemicals do, but with natural substances, the best we can, or the best I can, while still staying safe and true to what people used to do. I'm extremely nervous, so I appreciate that. Everywhere I go.
So these are the 4 major important things that make the mead happen. Honey.
We've already kind of gone over why that's really, really important, but why it's important as far as making the mead goes is this is really how you get your taste. This is going to determine whether it's a good mead or a bad mead. The main ones that you see in the store are going to be your wildflower honey and your clover honey, right? That's usually what we get for at-home teas, whatever. I would say don't use wildflower honey, simply because it's wildflower. It's just any of them, right? So some of them are darker, some of them are lighter, they have different aromas, they taste differently, and you're not going to get a consistent mead. So when you very first start making mead, you want a consistency. You want to know, okay, my batch is the same every single time to make sure that there aren't any problems and that you're doing everything correctly. So no to the wildflower mead, but I would definitely say use the honey. I would say use the clover honey. It's coming from one flower. It doesn't matter what company it is. It's going to taste the same basically every single time. It is a nice mild aroma. This is a clover honey. It's nothing too overpowering. It's going to be a good consistent taste. Water, it doesn't really matter what water you use. Alters the flavor a little bit. I mean, if you want to be healthier and you want to use like a spring water, you're more than welcome to spend the money and do that if you want to. I'm cheap. I use tap water. The only thing that you shouldn't do is use demineralized water or like a distilled. It tastes bad and it doesn't quite do its thing. Don't know the science behind that. I'm sorry. Just don't use demineralized water. You should be good. Tap water is okay. It does have the chemicals in it, especially like chlorine, but you can get rid of that by simply boiling anything. And then that'll get rid of the chlorine, and then you can start the process from there. Notice to get rid of oxygen, just because oxygen is really easy. It's everywhere. It's already in the jar, so you don't have to worry about that. Yeast. There are 3 different kinds of yeasts. You have a bread yeast, a wine yeast, and a beer yeast. What you use for mead is a wine yeast. These yeasts are all basically biologically really, really similar, but under each one of these there's like a million different little kinds. It gets really complicated. The best one that works with mead is wine. There is no individual mead yeast, so no point in even looking it up. Everybody will just put you in circles. I used this. It is a champagne yeast. Red Star is a really good, dependable brand. It's going to taste the same every single time. And that's another thing about yeast, is this is the other way that you can change the flavor, just ever so slightly. It changes the flavor, and it also will change the alcohol content, just depending on the yeast itself, how active